Kenai. Eric and I are here with Thomas today, recording kind of a cool recovery story because it's acting as kind of a community resource and a recovery story, two-in-oneer today. Thomas is about to graduate from Henu Wellness Court. He has been sober for 3 years on the 20th?
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah, on the 20th.
25th, right?
25th.
25th.
Sorry.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, so we'll kind of...
Could I
graduate on the 20th, my bad.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so yeah, Thomas will graduate from the Henu Court program on the 20th of this month, which this month is March, which is awesome because that means we're like getting out of winter, I believe. But no, to comment on what you were saying about the two-in-oneer, as you put it, as a resource and as a recovery. If I was to think back, like when we first started, the idea would be that we would eventually be recording with people in a community where they were able to find recovery through the resources in our community. And I think that is, what we're seeing today. So it is just, I guess it's just something I'm thankful for that's occurring, that people are and finding recovery with the resources here in the community. It's a blessing to have them. So, yeah, that's what I had to say on that.
All right. So, my first question is, how did you hear about Henu Wellness Court? Kind of what got you involved there?
So, I got in trouble in Kenai, and I had ended up doing probably 8 months in jail, and I went to the Salvation Army, and I failed the Salvation Army and got kicked out, and then I probably did another six plus months.
When you mean that you fail, like you were doing it as like a community service?
No, I was in rehab.
Okay.
I did the Salvation Army rehab program.
Oh, okay.
It was SARP or something like that.
Sure.
But I ended up getting discharged for behavioral issues. My dad had died, and I kind of lost all emotions and didn't really care about people that much, so I expressed that.
Yeah.
But I went back to jail after getting kicked out, and my attorney, Joe Montague, came up to me, and he's like, "Thomas, I want to try one more time. I just found this program. I think it would fit for you. I really want you to try this. Will you give it a shot?" And I just kind of had no hope. I was ready to sit down and do my time, And I said, "All right, man, if you think that this place will get me out, I'll do it." So I signed the papers. 2 months later, I got out. And I've been rocking it ever since.
Nice.
So when you say you got out, you were in jail at the time, or?
Yeah, I was incarcerated, and it took 2 months. Okay. Usually, it doesn't take them that long from signing the papers. Mm-hmm. But when I had signed the papers,
and like I said, I don't know all of the stuff, so I have to ask questions that probably seem like no brainers. But when you say the paper, was it kind of a paper that says I want to participate in Henu?
No, it was a whole packet.
Sure.
I had to sign, initial, sign.
Yeah.
It was my life,
right?
For sure.
But was the packet overall like to participate in this program?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was to become not a volunteer, but a participant.
Okay.
To become a member of the Henu program, and I'm one of the first 10. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah. And
I didn't know that at the time, but when I got out, I got to meet the participants, and I got to see my environment. I was just, not to sound ungrateful, but I was just handed stuff, and I was grateful, But, when I got handed all that stuff, I started to see the stability. I started to gain interest in the things that I had instead of trying to cluck it off and sell it and get rid of it and look at everything with a value tag. Everything had a price tag. But when I got out, I just was like, man, I don't want to lose this. Mm-hmm. This is important.
Right.
I need this.
Yeah.
So I actually I'm limiting myself to these tangents, like one or two podcasts, because I normally just go off too much. But this is really, I think, something I've been thinking about a lot. So I was at this thing a few weeks ago, and somebody was talking about accountability, but like accountability in that, like, if you do this, like, if you do something wrong, like you're going to face negative consequences, right? But I really think like what really keeps me accountable is not necessarily like the fear of punishment. What keeps me accountable is like, I know that if I behave in ways that aren't appropriate, that I will lose things that I care about, such as support, such as friends, such as the care that is shown to me.
Yeah.
And that's a different type of accountability, you know? It's not like a fear of facing these bad consequences. It's more just that like, hey, I have things to lose here that I really don't want to. And you know, these are the people and care around me. And it seems like you kind of were like, hey, this is the type of, like, I have people that care about me. I have a support system here. And you know that you're somewhat accountable. You need to be accountable in order to continue to get those things. You know, I just think that's such a cool. It's just a different approach to what is normally like accountability. You know, it's just a different approach to it.
Well, and it's the true form of it.
Yeah.
You know, because I mean, if you don't have accountability, your integrity is nothing. Because if people can't rely on you for things, if you can't show up, if you can't do this, you know, and an attack on my integrity that I just built would be saying that I have no accountability, and I can't stand for that. That's just, those words are just as important to me as my Xbox, my TV, my money that I'm getting from my job. Like, those are all important to me. Those are all my stability. You know, I rely on those things. I can't have somebody shatter my integrity, my accountability, and most of the time that's only on me, you know. Those are important words.
I think that's like something from our conversation with Shara in our Henu podcast that we did at just like the community resource podcast, is I think like, and maybe you can kind of talk about your experience with this too. I think that's kind of like the atmosphere that they aim to cultivate. You know what I mean? Like, it's the opposite of the punitive, like the negative consequences. Like, if you do this, you're going to jail. Like, that's like a kind of a fear-based negative consequence. You know what I mean? Where it's like, you know, if you like, it's just more of a loving environment, I guess, is kind of what I'm really getting into. You know, it's like the goal.
Yeah.
Which I think, like, having you on here is huge because it shows that it works. You know what I mean? I think, like,
absolutely, it does.
I think people in our community and other communities that, like, are pretty typical blue-collar communities, you know, don't really want to, aren't really willing to go there, you know what I mean? It's, like, enabling.
Yeah.
Enabling. But I think, like, it's really cool, man. Like that's one of the first things you brought up is, like, this positive accountability where, like, dude, I care about these things, and like I just don't want to lose them that way. You know, like I think that's super huge for humans in general.
Yeah.
But
one of the first phases they put you through is called the trust phase, and I got to learn of it firsthand because I've only made one mistake in this program, and that was my accountability, and I immediately fixed it. I ended up not being able to. I missed a meeting with my probation officer, the Henu probation officer. And then she ended up missing one, and then I missed another one. So it was like a whole week of us just kind of playing tag. Well, in my mind, I thought it was all right. But in reality, that was me being unaccountable. You know, I wasn't showing up on time. I was not making it to the meetings. It doesn't matter what was happening on her part because she's not a participant. You know, she's my probation officer. I have to listen. I have to obey. I got to abide. But I corrected myself. They ended up giving me a sanction. They said that if you don't miss a meeting or anything within the next 2 weeks, we'll remove the sanction. And that ended up happening. So, I mean, all I had to do was just correct myself, and it hasn't been the same ever since. I've been better. I mean, and you're saying the trust and the family, like if you mess up, sure, if you catch a new charge, they can't really help you because you went out and you did more crime. You know, if it's in-house and you get high or you back talk or you have a little bit of attitude and you need an adjustment, they'll help, and they don't kick you out right away. No, they sit there and they hold you and they just say, tell us what's going on. You know, if you mess up, tell us. Don't hide it. Don't run away. Don't go and make it worse. Come to us and tell us. Be upfront and honest, and everything will be all right. And I mean, I've never had such a feeling like that except for by my mom.
Right. Yeah. What was your experience like in that stage? Was it kind of like at the beginning, was it pretty difficult, and then just kind of or did it get easier, or does it still kind of remain hard? Or?
So it gets easier, but I mean, you kind of lose track of time. It does fly by, but I mean, there's so much. They keep you so busy because in the beginning, I mean, you're going to meetings 5 days a week. You're required to go to 3 NA meetings a week, and that goes through the weekend. Your classes don't go through the weekend, so they keep you busy, you know. And as long as you're honest and you're doing that work that they're providing for you, like, I mean, you really have to go out of your way to cause some trouble, you know, to go out and find a terrible environment to get either strung back up in or get high or commit more crimes. You know, you have to go and look for it. And you got to let that addiction take over and just not care, you know.
As you continued through the Henu process, what can you just, because I haven't talked to any, as far as I'm aware, I don't think I've ever talked to anybody that's gone through the entire program. So what were can you kind of walk me through that a little more?
Yeah. So I can't really remember what the names are.
Sure. No, that's okay.
But
yeah.
In the beginning was the trust, and I mean that was the foundation on my life today. Mm-hmm. Like I still today and I'm so honest. It's ridiculous. I am so honest. I tell people up front how I feel. I have strong barriers, you know, and that's, you have to have will. Your will has to push all that out. You have to create that for yourself. They give you the tools, but that first phase, that trust phase, is just, it's so important. Going through and graduating through the trust phase is... so
you graduate each phase?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's the 4 phases,
yep.
And you graduate through each one, and you have to meet the requirements.
Mm-hmm.
So there's, say in the first one, there's an IM test. Or not an IM test, an IM poem. So you pretty much just write a poem about yourself. I am, and then so on. Mm-hmm. And then they have you do an ancestry report to kind of find out where you are, where you're from, who your family is, you know. And I never really thought about that. Like, I always knew I had family, but I never thought of investigating them or finding out more about them. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, they helped me get more connected with my family, and I didn't even really know it at first. Mm-hmm. You know, at first I was like, oh, great, homework. You know? Yeah. But I did it, and I learned things about my family, myself.
What was your experience with that? Did you find it, like, pretty beneficial? Like,
yeah, I ended up finding out my mom's dad was my mom's mom and my mom's dad. So my grandma and my grandpa, I never really met him, but my grandpa smuggled my grandma through Canada. She was an American and he was a Canadian, and they ended up meeting somewhere in between, and then he got her to Canada and smuggled her back to Alaska. So he was like this big, like, international criminal. And I was surprised. I was like, holy crap. But that was the biggest piece of information.
Right.
But other than that, I just found out that I got more family down in the States that I didn't know about. You know? Mm-hmm. Just had to investigate.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's cool. So as you graduate from the trust phase, and then you move into the next one, what are you thinking then? I mean, because by then, right, 45 days have gone by, and I imagine, I don't mean to make assumptions, but so you start out with the program, and you probably had like some hesitancies or I mean, what are your, I guess, how are you kind of, you know, your inside perspective? How are you, like, feeling after 45 days?
Man, so I'm an addict.
Sure.
Through and through. Like, sure. I mean, drugs never leave my mind.
Sure.
You know, it's just the act of doing them that gets you in trouble.
Right.
So, I mean, it's a struggle every day. I mean, when I got out, it was a struggle. I saw people relapse. I saw people finding outlets. They would find different substances. Oh, this one doesn't get into your system. This one does. Oh, be careful with this. And, like, it was all around you constantly, you know? But as I got to see it and not participate in it, I got to see the people that I thought were cool and not be cool. So it helped me build stronger boundaries. I ended up seeing some people do some things, and I I didn't want to be like that no more. And that program, this program, Henu, I mean, I believe they let you see it, you know? It's like the drunk goggles, you know? They're like, look, it's out there, and you're going to fall down. You're not going to be able to keep walking if you keep going that direction, you know? So I just didn't want to be a part of it.
Yeah.
I wanted to stay the course.
Stay the course.
The good and the bad. And the longer I kept walking in the good, I didn't have to worry about the bad. It was always behind me. It's always going to be there. The dope will always be there. It will forever always be changing, getting worse, getting better, whatever you want to consider it. It's constant, you know, but so is the good. The good is constant. The things that you get, the people that you meet, you know. I have a very strict circle. I don't really like meeting people. I'm not prejudiced. I'm not racist. I just really don't like everybody equally, you know. So
I mean, some people are fun to hang out with and some aren't. Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. That makes sense.
But to just keep going, you know, didn't matter the days. Everything kind of blended together. And when I got to the living well phase, I believe that was the end of the second. It's the third, yeah. So once I got out of the second and into the third, I really had the maintenance of a job. I had no classes, so
you had a job during this? Because I was thinking, I was like, okay, you're on a meeting 5 days a week, you're doing all these other things.
Yeah.
How are people? Because I listened to the Henu podcast and I knew that there was some housing, but it wasn't always. You know, there may have been some other Kenai divisions that may have occupied some of those at some time, making it to where Henu like housing for people that were in there would be limited. So and I'm wondering, okay, how are people, you know, getting by? So you're working too.
So they start you off with the 5 classes for 5 days, and that goes through the first and second, and then they start weaning it back.
Sure.
So instead of having the 5 days, 5 classes, you'll have 3 classes, and it'll be every other day. And then once you get through those classes, they start pushing towards a job. Okay, you need to start doing this. You need to start doing that. Are you doing schooling? Are you doing anything to keep yourself productive? Are you doing volunteer work? So it's not like they're forcing it on your plate. They're showing you this is the food you need to eat. This is good food. We're offering it to you. You know, choose one. Choose 2. You know, just eat the food we're giving you. Don't go over there and eat that junk food. Come over here, eat this clean, healthy food that is prosperous and generous and, you know, overwhelming at sometimes. But they start cutting you back, and then you start to get the job. You start to get back into schooling, and then you start becoming this productive member of society. You know, and it doesn't just happen, but it does just happen. You know, you don't notice it. You're just like, oh crap. You know, you look back 3 months and you're like, oh, I'm doing it. I'm making it. I'm being successful. I'm being productive. I'm not using dope. I'm not hanging out with the wrong type of people, you know, and it all just kind of collides, and then it stretches on, you know, but it snaps back real quick too, because I mean the time flies by. It does not feel like it's been 18 months. I'll tell you that much. It feels more like maybe 8.
Yeah. Earlier you talked about I asked like what are some of like the major aspects of your life or some of your major hobbies? You want to talk about some of those?
So some are learned and some are old. Definitely working. Working was never a hobby before.
Right.
And now I really like working.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what the job. I like manual labor more. I'm working on my GED so I can get a better job.
Oh, cool.
But money. Money is a hobby. Something I've carried through my life is Xbox and gaming, online gaming and stuff. I mean, that keeps me so centered. Like I don't think about drugs when I'm playing games. When I'm sitting there online doing my thing, like drugs don't even come into it because I'm so busy. I'm so interactive with it. I just want to get those top scores. I want to make the body count, you know?
Yeah.
But I mean, it keeps me busy.
It's like a good outlet. Yeah.
It is, you know, just don't go too heavy into it. You know, don't ever not leave your house, you know? You got to get out.
Sure.
Some healthy boundaries.
Yeah, you do have to set boundaries. For the summertime, I mean, the beach. This place is so beautiful And I love camping. I love campfires. I love the beach. I love finding things. I mean, I found agate. Well, me and my ex found an agate. I mean, it was the size of my hand, man. And I mean, this sucker was heavy and beautiful. It's something to awe at. And so I pushed myself for those. That was a learned habit, a learned hobby. I wanted those. I want to go down there and I want to enjoy the sunshine, the beach, whether it's cold, rainy, windy. I want to go down there. So it's just, I'm starting to build all these hobbies and stuff. I mean, that was probably my best one last summer, working in the beach. I was there all the time.
Really?
Constantly.
That's cool. Yeah, I wanna get out to the beach more this summer. Definitely get out, man. Do it. I have
Every summer.
I look at him like that because I say it every summer and then I don't do it. But,
no.
but same thing. This is the summer.
This is it. This is the one.
Yeah. Oh man, I know. Yeah, that's. So did you grow up around the Soldotna, Kenai area?
No, I was born in Anchorage.
Okay.
I lived probably in between here in Soldotna and I can't remember the other place, but on the peninsula, bounced back and forth between 1 and 3, and then I ended up getting taken away by my mom because things weren't good down here with her and my dad. So she took me away. We lived in Anchorage, Talkeetna, Wasilla. It was just all over the place. But my main home was Anchorage. Yeah. And then it kind of weaned out between Anchorage and Wasilla, and I just constantly bounced back between the two destinations. I ended up, I had a good job. I was homeless for a little bit between 18 and 21, and I ended up getting some money, and I ended up renting to own this house, and I signed some fake papers.
You got scammed?
Oh man, hard. I came home. I was working at Great Alaskan Holidays, and it's an RV rental dealership, and I was housekeeping, and I was pouring all my money into this place. And I came home one day, and there were these people in my home with my landlord. And I was like, the homeowner guy, I was like, what's going on? And he goes, oh, well, you got to go. And I was like, what do you mean I got to go? He's like, well, these people, this is their home. And then I started getting yelled at and almost attacked by the people. They're like, you need to leave, get your out of here, go. And I was just like, oh my gosh. So I called my stepdad and I called the police, and I was just like, what do I do? The cops show up, my dad shows up, my stepfather, they're all showing up, and the cops tell me that I have 30 days to leave because they can prove that I've been living here, but they cannot prove that I have any signed papers, no documents, no nothing. And the landlord guy was sitting there saying that, oh, he's just been staying there, he's a freeloader, blah, blah, blah. Yet I have the whole upstairs and downstairs furniturized, TVs, like all my stuff is here. I mean, no way I'm freeloading in this house by myself like this. There's no way. But that spiraled my addiction.
Right.
I ended up starting shooting and smoking and selling, and it spiraled out of control from there.
Mm-hmm. But then you, it sounds like today you're thriving.
Absolutely.
I
love my life today.
Yeah.
I was very angry before. I didn't really, my like for people today is better. My like for people in my past was worse because I didn't care about your well-being. I didn't care about the person next to me. Nothing. Yeah. It was what you had. Back to the price tag. Everything had a price tag. Your shoes, your watch. What do you need from the store? I'll go boost it. Oh, look at that car. It's running. Everything. Didn't matter. If it was a person, a girl, a guy. If that person wanted that person, oh, I can connect it. Hold on. Oh, you want to hurt him, beat him up? Okay, cool. Hold on. Oh, you need drugs? Okay, boom, boom, boom. And I didn't care if it was going to kill you. I didn't tell you how much to take. I didn't tell you nothing. If it was good or bad, I can get it for you. Today, I love people more. I'll tell you, I don't want to hurt nobody around me. I don't want to hurt myself. I don't want to hurt my family. I don't want to hurt my integrity. I built this. I built myself. It's not a persona. It's not a facade. It's nothing fake. This is as real as I've ever been. Besides my childhood. That was probably the realest part of my life besides right now.
Yeah. Yeah, Thomas, it sounds like your life is, like you said, like I said earlier, you're thriving, and I think you're an inspiration for pretty much all people. I think you can inspire those around you, and I'm thankful that you were able to do this today. And like I said before the podcast too, is I think it's just so powerful to have something where Alaskans can hear about other Alaskans, recovering, and I think that that's powerful. If there's, what would you want to say to people who, maybe in recovery now, or maybe, still living with addiction today? What would be some of those things you want people to know?
And that would be to not give up, man. To find the help, You're not a lost cause. Jail is not the last option, Don't settle to rot, thrive. We're out there, people are out there that want to help you. There are programs that are there for you specifically, Don't stop searching. That's like the biggest message that I could possibly throw out there, because I almost gave up. If it wasn't for my attorney, I wouldn't have been here. I wouldn't have been able to be here speaking. I wouldn't be this person today. He gave me that insight that he never stopped. So that means I should never stop too. I shouldn't stop too. I should keep going.
Yeah, I think what I think of when you say that about your attorney not stopping, I think that probably somewhere in you think, man, maybe I'm worth fighting for,
Yes.
Like, as he did that, that's really cool.
Yeah. Thank you, Thomas, for coming and talk to us today about Henu Wellness Court and sharing your story with us today. I think this is super cool, man. I think it's important for the community and for people to know that, like, people recover, man. It's like you said, it's no lost hope, no lost causes. Like, there's people and places in this community that care about you, want to see you better, want to see you thrive like Thomas is today. Thank you so much for joining us today. You and I for the Kenai.